Hello and welcome to the Confident Musicianing Podcast. My name is Eleanor and I am a British American oboist studying at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, literally my dream school. And it took me a long way to get there. I applied and auditioned for 12 schools in 3 different countries. It was a lot of hard work, but oh my gosh, so worth it. I want you to have the confidence to work hard in achieving your goals. So come with me as we go on this journey together. So sit down, pull up a chair, take a seat, or if you're on the go, welcome to the Confident Musicianing Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Confident Musicianing Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I think today's episode is a really important one and one that has really helped me in my own growth as an oboist or just generally as a musician. So I'm really excited to get into it. Today is such a rainy day. It is rainy and windy. I was out doing some errands and it was crazy. I was really kind of struggling to see much of what was in front of me. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it was just when rain just gets in your face and you're just ugh. But overall it was fine. And it was very kind of cold and wet, but I think especially when you live in Scotland, you kind of have to romanticize that and be like, it's a lovely rainy day. So I suppose that's what I'm gonna do today. But now I am here and it is nice and cozy, and we can get into talking about taking notes after lessons. This was something that I did when I was working with the associate principal oboist of the Pittsburgh Symphony when I lived in the States. And I started out by not taking notes. When I started working with him, I did not take notes, and I remember him suggesting that I should, and when I did, it honestly changed everything. It really changed the game. Every lesson became so much more valuable and useful for me because I remembered things. That was about 4-ish years ago, and I still take notes, and it has just really helped my growth between lessons and how much I grow between lessons versus when I don't take notes. So today we're going to be diving right into this. We're going to be talking about the benefits of taking notes, what I've found, and also kind of how I do it, so that if you are interested in taking notes, you can kind of get started on that. So there are really good pros to taking notes. I think the coolest thing is that you kind of create like a capsule of a time period, if that makes sense. So I, for instance, if I had a lesson that was really valuable, I mean, I take notes on all of my lessons, but if I had a lesson that was really kind of insightful or interesting, and I maybe a few years down the road, I'm like, oh, what did we say in that lesson? I don't really remember. I can literally go into a notebook and look at the notes I took on from that day, and it feels like, oh yeah, I remember everything. The lesson, it just I remember it. And I think that is so cool, especially when I've had lessons with when I did trial lessons for my university conservatoire auditions. I had trial lessons with all of the different teachers, and they gave me so many kind of differing and insightful thoughts and opinions on my playing, and being able to go back to that and being like, what did this person say? They put it in a really interesting way that really helped me to do whatever I needed to do. And I can literally go in a notebook and read what they said because I made notes and I wrote it down. That to me is really, really helpful. Also, if I am picking up a piece of music that maybe I had worked on before, and I am like, okay, this is the music, but I can't remember, there was one thing or two things or whatever about this piece that I was really working on, and something that someone said, I can just take a look at those notes. I have honestly 10, 12 notebooks just full of notes, and just scribbles and so many different notes. And for me, those notes are golden because they are, years and years of like lessons with really, really insightful people. And for me, that is so valuable. And so I really appreciate the fact that I have those notes, and I'm really grateful that I started doing it. And now I'm in the habit of doing it, and I don't do a lesson without taking notes. So let's talk about how I take notes, because you might be like really excited, like, okay, this sounds good, but how do I actually take notes? Because it's different from, say, taking notes in a lecture. If you're used to taking notes in a lecture, it's just a wee bit different. So let's get into that. So I think a good question is, should it be in the lesson or after the lesson? For me, I almost always take notes after the lesson. I tend to not take notes in the lesson because for that, like, I'm absorbing, right? I feel like when I'm in the lesson, I am like a sponge, and I'm absorbing all the information. And then after the lesson, I like put all of that, I brain dump that information on a sheet of paper or in a notebook. And for me, that kind of helps me to stay in the moment. I think if I took notes in the lesson, I probably would not get through as much as I did, would if I took notes after the lesson. So that's kind of what I do. I kind of just soak up all the info and then brain dump afterwards. And that's kind of what I do. Sometimes I take the notes in the lesson, but that's more for reads. So because I'm an oboe player, I make my own reads. I am learning how to do that. And so if I am, like doing something with reads, I might jot like those down, because they might have like numbers, measurements, and I might have to like that stuff I kind of jot down more in the moment. But when it comes to playing, I tend not to take notes in the lesson. I tend to wait until after. And honestly, sometimes it is more than I think. It's weird. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I'll write this much or this much, and it's either a lot more or a lot less. If it's a lot more, it tends to be like very specific details. A lot less tends to be more overarching themes, but they apply to a lot of things. And for me, it's just afterwards I do that. So now I'm studying at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. I have my lesson in the conservatoire, and I might go to the library if I'm staying at the conservatoire, or maybe when I get home I will take notes. But I do just brain dump all of those things, which is really good for me. And also I feel like as I write, the more I write, the more I remember more. I feel like for my brain, at least, if I like do it in the order that we did it in the lesson, my brain is like, oh, and this, oh, and this, oh, and this, oh, and this. Even if like I feel like I've forgotten things, then my brain starts to kind of remember, and I can just brain dump the lesson over. I think it is important to not worry about getting everything, because you might miss some things, but those will also come maybe later in practice sessions. I've had that as well, where I'm like, oh yes, I forgot about this thing, but this is important as well, and I might add to my notes after if I remember those things as well. But for me, I for the most part take notes after. Yes. Oh, and also when I take notes after, one of the best things that I do is I have the music out in front of me. For like, that is something that's good, and we'll get to that a little more later. So what do we write now that you know that I take notes generally after the lesson? What do I write? I have one word for you. I write more than one word, but this encompasses it. Everything. Absolutely everything. I write everything, all the things that I can remember. It is a brain dump, just everything. So for me, I write all the details. So for like, it could be, for instance, I have so many notebooks full of this, but like line 4, measure 2, beat 1, it needs to be longer, or it needs to be more staccato, or it needs to be louder, or the crescendo needs to be like really specific stuff. And then I also do bigger stuff. So like overall, I need to be more legato in this section, or overall, I need to get a better sense of the pulse. That's something that I'm working on right now, getting a better sense of the pulse. And for me, like having both of those things, having really specific things and also more overarching things, those two things are really important to have both of them, because they encompass everything, right? And I write down everything. And that's another thing, when I look at the music, I can write down all the little things, so if I'm like, okay, I want this note to be shorter and then this one longer and then this one shorter, I can literally write like page 2, measure 5, beat whatever, and then write it down literally that specific, to really get all of these things. When you look at my journals, I have so many, you will see the pages of like specific things about specific beats, and then you might see as well more abstract things, more overarching things. Sometimes my lessons are more overarching than details, and vice versa. Just literally, I just write whatever we did in the lesson, whatever we talked about. Also, you might be thinking, Eleanor, that is a really long time. Do you spend like hours afterwards writing everything? Not really, no. It actually takes less time than I think it is going to take, which is good. But something that helps with me is if there is a like thing, maybe I want to get the second note of the beat shorter, and maybe all of the second notes of the beat are shorter. I'll say, I'll do the first one, so I'll do like, whatever measure that first one is in, and then I'll say a simile, which is and it's Italian, it means like and the same. So like that basically means, and the rest is also like this. So that kind of helps. Or I write that if it's like, okay, something comes back. So maybe there's like a phrase that I'm like, I want to do it this way, but I also want to do it this way at the end of the piece when it comes back. I'll write that, a simile, and that shows that at the end of the piece, like it's the same thing as well. If it's different, then I will write that out as well. That is also something important to know as well, because sometimes we do love a little bit of contrast. And I think another thing to kind of note about this, which I think is important, these notes are for you. These notes are for you only. No one else is going to read these notes unless you show them to them. These notes are literally for you, so write what works for you. Write things that work for you. Write things that make no sense to other people. I've written things in my notebooks that are like, make this phrase feel like a winter snowstorm. Someone might look at that and be like, what do you mean? But maybe I know exactly what I mean. Or for me, oftentimes when I hear music, I see colors. So sometimes I'll be like, this note here needs to be a really nice purple, a magenta maybe. And someone else might be like, what does that mean? But for me, I know exactly what a magenta note looks like. Do you know what I mean? So that is something as well. I also use a lot of onomatopoeia. So a lot of words that like sound like what they're supposed to sound like. So like yum pum pum. That's, if I want to get like really bouncy articulation, yum pum pum. You'll find notes, especially from like when I lived in the States. It's just like everywhere I go, yum pum 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 pum, like over and over. And for me, that really helps me to understand, even if maybe someone else would look at that and go, those aren't words. What are you talking about? So for you, your notes are yours. You can write whatever you want, whatever works for you. Even if it doesn't make any sense to anyone else, like it's your notes. It will be fine. Now that I am studying at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I take so many notes, honestly. Like for me, it's really important to continue on with it. And it's so cool to see, because every single lesson I've had so far, I have taken notes from. So I can go back to like my very first lesson in the conservatoire and see what I worked on, or see what, I've been like, see what I've worked on. Something that as well has been really helpful for me is the fact, I have transitioned from the American style of oboe playing to the European style of oboe playing, and there's a lot of different tiny things that I needed to change. So now if I am struggling with something and I'm like, okay, there was something way back when I first started playing on the European style that we talked about, but I just don't really remember how to do it, I can look at my notes, from way back and see how I did it. And then that's really helpful. It really helps especially like for me, I'm quite forgetful sometimes. Having these notes are really helpful as well. So yeah. Now, once you've done your note taking and you are sitting in a practice room, you want to be able to take those notes and turn them into good practice sessions. And one way that I am really kind of more efficient with my practice is I plan my practice. And a tool that I use when I plan my practice is a notable practice journal. These journals have really helped me in my practice because not only can I plan my practice, but I can also reflect. So I can look back on my practice session and write down what worked and what didn't, so the next time I practice, I can improve on that. For me, it has really, really helped me, and it is a great tool to use when I have my notes already from my class or from my oboe lesson, and I am trying to kind of construct a practice session around these notes. So that is how I use my notable practice journal. And as soon as I realized that it was helping me, I knew that I needed to tell you about it, and I knew that I needed to give you a code. So use code Eleanor15 for 15% off your journal. That is ELEANOR 15 for 15% off your journal, and I will link the link for that and the code in the description in the show notes for you, so that you can plan that practice for even more efficiency in your practice. I only recommend things that I absolutely love. This code is an affiliate code, which means I do receive a commission with no extra cost to you. All right, let's do a recap. So the first thing is kind of the pros. So one thing that's really helpful is that I can look at any lesson I've done, and if I did a lesson that was really specifically insightful, or maybe I need to go back to something that I worked on in the lesson a while ago, I can read those notes and it can feel like that lesson happened yesterday. It's great for trial lessons as well, especially when you are working on a lot of different working with a lot of different people and you want to keep track of what they told you. Taking notes is really helpful as well. I take my notes after my lesson, unless I'm doing reads. If I have, if there are measurements involved, I might jot those down in my notebook. But for the most part, I take notes after, and for me, it's in the lesson, I am in the moment, I am soaking up everything, and then after the lesson, I brain dump everything onto a piece of paper in a notebook. What do I write? I write everything. I do detailed stuff, really, really detailed stuff. I do overall kind of overarching stuff as well. I just write as much as I can. And I also remember things as well later on that maybe I forgot when I was writing. But for me, I feel like the more I write, the more I remember. So it's just, I get into a flow state. It's really cool. And the last thing is writing things that work for you. I write a lot of random stuff, imagery that maybe only you would get, stuff like, onomatopoeia, like yum pom pom, or, just kind of noises like that. And that also helps me in my journals. And then, I can look back on my notes and I can remember things. Also, the act of writing things down helps it solidify in your brain. Sometimes I feel like I don't need to reference my notes from the lesson that I just had because I have written them, and so they are stronger in my mind. But overall, writing things down, writing notes after my lesson has honestly completely changed the way I do lessons and how much I get out of lessons. I get out so much more from lessons now than I did before. So yeah, that is about it for this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that this is inspirational for you to pick up a notebook and just kind of start writing stuff from your lessons, because it is really, really helpful. If you enjoyed this episode, please do follow, share with all of your friends, especially the ones who might want to do some journaling after their lessons. And I will see you in the next episode. All right, take care. Bye-bye.